Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. It is again Monday, March 30, 2026, and at 1:22, I call the Committee on Budget back to order. I'd like to welcome with us in the chambers again Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto, Council Members Talba, Cordero, and Kia'aina, as well as Council Members Tupola and Dos Santos Tam. Members, moving on to agenda item number 2, Bill 23, 2026, approving the Executive Capital Budget and Program for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. We'll first proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Members, we will be going through the worksheet again on for the CD1 for capital budget. I believe we have with us Director Andy Kawano. No, okay. I'm going to go line by line, or department by department again. So let's see BFS here. Okay. On page 1 for General Government, Department of Budget and Fiscal Services. Starting off with procurement of major equipment for DFM, the Budget Chair's recommendation is to accept amendment, additional appropriation from executive operating proposed amendments, description to read acquisition of vehicles for the Department of Facility Maintenance Operations, including an additional mobile crane and a long reach excavator. Is that here? Okay. Members, any discussion? Okay, sounds good. Okay. Continuing on page 1 as well as page 5. For General Government and Human Services from the Department of Housing and Land Management. So starting with page 1, the Budget Chair's recommendation is to accept amendment, proposed amendment moved from Human Services function, title and description to read Japan American Institute of Management Science Property Land Acquisition, acquisition of the Japan American Institute of Management Science, JAIMS, property TMK 3-9-038:002, and on page 5, also under Housing and Land Management, the Budget Chair's recommendation is to accept language change. Where is I? Okay. And that is for the project, for affordable housing development under the projects column. Do I need to read all of that? I thought I saw with us, we do have with us the Department of Housing and Land Management Director Ajay. Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Budget Chair Okamoto. So responding, I guess, to the two questions, as I mentioned earlier during our testimony on the operating budget, the administration evaluates acquisitions based on a stated public purpose, our department's capacity, the availability of funding and financing for various projects, also the readiness of a project and a project's underwriting and where it stands from that perspective. With respect to the James property, I know the property very well, and I appreciate the suggestion that we purchase it. It's literally a block from my home, so I pass it every single day. It's approximately a 6-acre site, but it's currently owned by the Bishop's estate. I'm not certain if it's even for sale or what the stated purpose. I assume it would be a purchase for affordable housing, but I don't think that's stated in the proposed CD1. So I'm just not certain what we're intended to do with it.
Okay, thank you, Director. I will read to you under this description for the project: provide affordable housing fund AF for any projects eligible under ROH Chapter 6, Article 63, and the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu, Section 9-204, which may be administered or managed by the City and County of Honolulu or in conjunction with private, nonprofit, or private developers, provided that $1.5 million must be used for subsidies for pre-development planning for the Waialua Sugar Mill Plantation Mill Camp Project in Waialua, Oahu, and identify, oh, wait, this is the James, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm reading the wrong one, here we go.
That's okay.
I apologize.
It says public facilities improvements in.
I was reading the wrong item, yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
So just wasn't clear, but to the extent that it's owned by the Bishop's estate, and they're probably better capitalized than we are at the city, I'm not certain why we would need to buy the property. So it just wasn't clear. Happy to continue to work on it and appreciate the suggestion, but just not understanding what the intended purpose is. With respect to the 1.5, with respect to the 3.5 million for the Wailea Sugar Mill site, I just want council members to for awareness to understand that we've already invested approximately $3.5 million in that site during fiscal year 2022 and 2023 for the acquisition of the land. We have not, unfortunately, seen significant progress on that site. We've not received a revised budget or schedule stating what the developer's intentions are moving forward, and that's been really challenging. I met with the developer personally about 8 months ago and haven't seen any action since then, which is disappointing. I'd also point out with the impacts of the Kona storms over the last couple of weekends, that site's also been impacted. And I think we really need to take a step back and reevaluate, what the developer's doing there, what the impacts of the storm are, and the flood situation in that area, and just re-underwrite the entire development.
Thank you, Director.
Certainly.
I believe, I know for the first item, the James, and forgive me for reading the wrong description, but if Chair Waters has come at any moment, then that's in his district, I believe that was his ask. But Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you so much, Director, for being here. And I know Chair Waters isn't here, but I did want to suggest that, especially in the prioritization of acquisition of land, one, that if we do acquire land, that we have some clear intent and other funding besides just city funding that can make the land go, right? Whether it's private partnership or the state's willing to invest, because I think without multiple entities, like I do think that we would be sitting on more vacant, sitting city inventory, which I don't really think people are in favor of. So I think if anything, like maybe moving forward, if there are certain parcels or like acquisitions that you're prioritizing, I think for us just to know that these ones have partnerships ready to go and we're ready to acquire, and these are the reasons why, I think I'd feel more comfortable with that, just because you guys already have a bunch of stuff that people are already mad that is not doing anything. So I think you guys have your fair share of work.
Thanks very much for those comments. So we appreciate that. One of our stated objectives in a strategic plan that we delivered last January was to seek alternative sources of financing, particularly above and beyond low-income housing tax credits and only city funds. We do have a lot on our plate. We've got 7 transactions that we're currently working on, 2 more that'll be announced before the end of the fiscal year this year, and that'll give us a pipeline of approximately 2,500 units, and we're still trying to find ways to finance those. So we've got a lot that we're working on, as you suggested. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tupola. I'd like to welcome to the Chamber Council Chair Waters, Floor Leader Kia Aina.
Thank you. I heard that you mentioned that the title holder is the Kamehameha Schools. I was not aware of that. I am concerned about the alienation of any of the trusts, including Kamehameha Schools. I was not happy with their selling of Hualalai. I was not happy with their selling of Royal Hawaiian. And whatever their fiscal challenges or impact from climate change, I think that before the Kamehameha Schools ever entertains selling a property, it has to be, they have to have a community outreach engagement. Now, since this seems to be unilateral that we are considering it, I would like us to also keep that in mind, that the last thing I need is for the Kamehameha Schools to be selling off more of its lands and deplete the long-term resources of the beneficiaries of the Kamehameha Schools.
Thank you, Floor Leader Kia Aina. Chair Waters.
Thank you. Just by way of background, This property is on Hawaii Kai Drive. It's the Japanese American Institute of Management Science, and they've been there for 40 years or so. And their lease is up, and they're moving out. And the community is afraid that they're going to put a 400-foot tower there. So they created a community group who's working with Kamehameha Schools to try to use the property for something that's both beneficial to the trust as well as would work with the community. The idea really would be, and perhaps the city leasing the property, but put a satellite city hall there, put an ambulance there, put the police there, and really use it for something that's compatible with the community. I've met with Jack Wong from Kamehameha Schools. They're open to selling it to us. So I'm putting this in as a placeholder, but kind of similar to what's happening on the North Shore with Sharks Cove, where the city bought the property for $26 million for a hub. So it'd be the same thing. We don't want to divest Kamehameha Schools of this property, but we also certainly do not want a 400-foot tower there. Anyway, just by way of background. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Floor to the Kia Aina.
Okay, I appreciate the explanation, and I think that we could get there. But the fact that the CEO of the Kamehameha Schools was actually entertaining it and was open deeply concerns me, because then that means that, again, this is how it starts, right? So, Chair Waters, your objective is laudable with regard to the community, and I'm hoping we can come to a resolution without, because I would have grave concerns over such an acquisition moving forward.
Thank you, Floor to the Kia Aina. Members, any further discussion? Thank you, Director Ajay.
Thank you very much.
Members, moving now on to page 2 and page 9, under Public Safety and Utilities and Other Enterprises from the Department of Transportation Services. So on page 2, as Director Morton is coming to the microphone, from page 2, the Budget Chair's recommendation under Traffic Engineering Devices in Various Locations for $200,000. Under Traffic Improvements and Various Locations, the recommendation is to accept $200,000 twice, so $400,000. I don't need to read this? No? Okay. And under Traffic Signals in Various Locations, a total of $100,000. That's for page 2. And then on page 5, sorry, page 9. Thank you. For bus stop site improvements, the Budget Chair's recommendation is a total of $500,000. And thank you for being again with us, Director Morton.
Aloha, Council. Roger Morton from the Department of Transportation Services. Let me speak first to the projects proposed on page 2. I would note right from the beginning that those 3 projects, traffic engineering devices at various locations, traffic improvements at various locations, and traffic signals are federal programs, need to be in the TIP. But more than that, we work hard. 75% of our CIP budget is federally funded, and we would recommend that we continue to follow that model. With respect to some of the projects, let's see. So for the traffic engineering on Kamilo Street, we have started a study for that in February. We will be complete with that study. We're projecting by December. And if needed, then we can look toward HDOT to assist us on that particular one to put in speed humps. But first, we're going to evaluate as to whether or not they're warranted on those streets. With respect to the issue of Ala Lilikoi and Ala Alima and those streets there, we've already determined that a guardrail is not warranted. We do note that the state did install speed tables that help to control traffic on those areas. With respect to the issue of the left turn, pardon me, on that one too, on one of those intersections where a left turn phase was required, we found it to be not warranted. On the other one, we found it to be warranted, and we are including it in a future phase of traffic signal work for that one. I think that's Ala Lilikoi and Ala Arima Street intersection right there. On the Gulick, King Street and Gulick left turn project, that project we have not evaluated yet. Again, if we evaluate and we find the traffic signals are warranted, our federal reimbursement can be anywhere from 80% to 100%. And that's what we try to do, is we try to go out in advance, do the warrants, then do the design, then do this construction. And that's been a formula that we've been following. My colleague, Hong Lee, has taken upon him as a personal mission to make sure that those traffic signal projects at various locations are going to be done in an expeditious way. As for the final project, which was, I believe it was bus stop improvements for $500,000. Again, we program about $2 million, $2.5 million a year for various bus stop improvements. I'm happy to have my staff coordinate that neighborhood, then to see where or if there are warrants for additional bus shelters in that area.
Thank you, Director Morton. Members, questions for the Director. Councilmember Cordero, followed by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair Okimoto. This actually is not a question for the Director, but thank you, Chair Okimoto. These are longtime CIPs that will hopefully give the department some flexibility, but after this meeting, and should we approve of the CD2, I'll work with the department with further meetings and maybe make some amendments in the CD2, whether it be removing some of the CIP. So thank you for your consideration. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the proposal for the left turn phase of the intersection of North King Street and Gulick Avenue, Director, in the departmental responses, it says that the left turn warrant analysis has not yet been completed. Is there a timeline to get that completed?
I don't have a timeline in front of me, but I would commit to, by the end of the year, we'll try to have our folks do it, or by the end of the, we'll shoot for December, and if not December, we'll say by the end of the following June for sure.
Okay. And if, in the comments, it says if left turn signals warranted, DTS will program funding in the FY27 budget. So that means that if it is warranted, let's say you finish it by December, you're confident that existing funds would cover the installation.
Let me ask my colleague Hong to come up. I don't know if I know he's been dealing with traffic signals with our TTD bit. Putting you on the spot, Hong.
Hi, Budget Chair Okimoto and Budget Committee. My name is Hong Li, Deputy Director from DTS. So to answer your question, the traffic signal warrant right now is underway. We do want to make sure, if the left turn is warranted, we will be able to put it in the FY27 budget.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. One last comment. I just note that I want to thank you for meeting with all the members and also especially myself regarding the projects in our district. There's some discrepancies, especially with Gulick and North King, as we noted that it is a candidate for leading pedestrian intervals. I'm hoping that we can have further discussions about this because I don't want to say it's a major discrepancy, but yeah, I just wanted to be able to make sure that we highlight that in our future meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Seeing no further questions or discussions, thank you, Director Morton. Okay, moving now on to page 3 for public safety and with the Department of Emergency Management. the top of page 3, and as Director Collins is coming up to the podium, just for the project description, it's Island Resilient Emergency Shelter Initiative. And the budget chair's recommendation is $3 million. Thank you, Director Collins.
Thank you, Chair Okamoto and council members. I appreciate what we're trying to do here. Respectfully, though, I would defer back to what we originally had looked at in our original proposal in terms of our CIP projects with the resiliency hub out of Hauula, and would respectfully try to just stick with that at this time and use that as a measure to see how else we could approach further shelters across the island with that.
Okay, starting with Chair Waters, followed by Vice Chair Tupola.
I understand perhaps because of budget constraints you're saying what you're saying, but you have to agree with me that there aren't sufficient shelters for people island-wide and in each one of our districts, right?
I absolutely agree. We 100% need better, stronger, more shelters on Oahu.
So, okay. And would you also agree that the shelters that we currently have are insufficient to protect the public from the possibility of a hurricane or an earthquake or other natural disaster?
Yes, sir. I absolutely believe that our shelter infrastructure as a whole needs to be beefed up significantly. And my concern isn't the proposal to give us money for more shelters. My concern is my department's capacity to incorporate those plans along with the other plans that we have over time. So I think a more planned out approach is what's needed here. And we have one in the works kind of thing. And then we also have growth of my department in the works. And I think as over the multiple years is how we should approach the shelter problem.
Okay, but what happened? I mean, in each one of our districts, we need one of these. Wouldn't you just give it to DDC, Design and Construction, to go ahead and design and work on that whole thing? You just have to work with them. I mean, I'm not asking your department to build it.
Yes, we absolutely have to work with DDC, but we also have to make sure that the approach is done in a manner that works, obviously integrates with our department in terms of finding the locations and where, what's not in a tsunami zone versus what's not in a flood zone and so forth. And so there's still a lot of work that has to go into the overall approach to it. It's not just as simple as DDC.
No, I get that, but presumably you would work with each council member to determine an appropriate site. Well, that's why I'm really pushing Department of Housing and Land Management to give us a record of what city properties are that we own so that we can work with you folks to determine these sites. But, I think it's really, really important to do, especially now with what happened last week. So, thank you. By the way, you're going to be here on Wednesday for our hearing? 1 o'clock.
No, I believe Managing Director will be here.
We need you to come.
Okay,
we need
sir.
you to be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Vice Chair Tupola.
Thanks so much. Aloha, Director. I think one of the thoughts that I had, say, for example, we don't go with this. I do think that there still needs to be money allocated for interim temporary hubs. I'll give you an example because, even though there is a hub set up at Kuku Village Center and then they have one in Hauula, Laie was heavily hit and nothing. and their cars are inoperable. So they can't even drive to Kahuku. They can't drive to Hau'ula. So yesterday I helped them set up a temporary hub. We got ILWU and some of the Matson guys to donate a container so that people can stop running the hub out of their homes. They were tired of having hundreds of people come through. There were some people that tried to come into their house and steal the items that were donated from the hub. We need actual security at these hubs so that they can distribute these items safely, because a lot of the people running the hub were just moms that were helping out pass out diapers and water. And so we had to coordinate with like HFD, and really nobody came to Laie from your department to assess. There was 2 HFD guys that came that the community members told me that they quote unquote assessed. But I do think that if we don't go with something, you know, like an actual physical place, which may not be needed, I think we're going to need some funds to deploy some temporary sites and be a little bit more mindful of that, especially if people are limited in their ability to traverse. We can't just assume that 1 per council district will be sufficient, to be honest, because like right now it's just one person's district that has a lot of, you know, hard hit areas, but he doesn't have hubs in every single little small community. And unfortunately, you know, for Laie, if you drive through that community, eerily, it looks like everything's okay. But when you go into the homes, it's unlivable because people are living at their families' houses now. So would you agree that some type of money put aside for a temporary or interim hubs would be a good idea? I think the idea that Chair Waters is bringing up is good. Maybe not solid areas, because maybe that's too much of an investment, but what does your department suggest in the event of like this current situation, and how many hubs, like temporary hubs, were needed to be deployed?
It was my understanding that this isn't temporary, that this is permanent.
It is. I'm just giving a suggestion because you're saying we don't want to. We want to focus on Hau'ula. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I do think that, again, just like we had earlier today, we agree and that you guys have other ideas, but for everyone to just come up and say we oppose everything, that doesn't help us solve some of the problems that we're faced with. We're not bringing up these suggestions out of the fun. Like, we're bringing it up because community members asked us, oh, when is this going to happen? When is that? So we're just giving suggestions, but instead of just saying, okay, we're just going to invest in Hau'ula, I was suggesting maybe a middle ground would be, should we put into the budget some type of money for temporary, like, you know, pop-up hubs that we might need in the event that we really can't gauge where the next disaster might happen, and it might not be one for every district, but I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm certainly in favor of more shelters, more buildings that can withstand the weather impacts that we are at risk here for, and I totally agree that we don't have the infrastructure that we absolutely need. I'm concerned about throwing too much at it too soon when I only have a staff of 15 that has this very big footprint and risk portfolio that we have to manage. So I'm really focused on upgrading that and including new staff in the operational budget, which is there, and then increasing our capacity to be able to plan these different things, whether they be interim or whether they be permanent. But I just don't see how my current staff has the capacity to incorporate this type of project without growing the program first.
How much is your current staff right now? How many people?
Currently, we're at 15 funded people. And just to remind you, you know, on the last budget presentation, I told you about our desire to grow, and we have some growth put into this budget, and with the ultimate goal of 80 total, which is why we're so restricted in our capacity right now, and why we need to grow the staff so I can have the planners, so I can have the logistics, so I can have the people that can do projects such as this and do it in a way that looks at the strategic level of this and where all the risks are, and work with all the council members in those locations to find the right spots and have a better cohesive strategy collectively.
No, I hear you, Director, and I don't want to critique your efforts. I mean, it's always easy from the outside to say what should have been done. I don't want to Monday morning quarterback anything, but I do think that in the realm of us deciding like how we proceed forward, I would hope that some of those thoughts, even if you don't have enough staff to deploy it, some of the just structural plans of like how we would do it, were you guys at all involved in I guess, determining the closure times of the shelters just recently for this past storm. Was your department involved?
Yes, I would say we were very closely involved. We worked very closely with all the shelter workers and partners in care to make sure that we're doing case management and transition assistance to make sure that we're not putting out anyone when we do close shelters, that they do have a place to go. And so at the Emergency Operations Center, we oversaw the activation of those shelters, and before we closed them, we made sure that we did the proper mechanism to close the shelters before we did.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I know I'm taking up a lot of time. I'm just going to conclude with this. I feel like my main concern was somebody made a decision. It was on the day after the storm because then it was mitigated, right? By Saturday, they said, okay, nothing's going to happen by 11 o'clock. Somebody made the call at 12 o'clock that they'd close the shelter in my community at 3 o'clock. Nobody notified me. The Red Cross guys don't really know how to place people. It was a Saturday. I had to pull every single resource, every network I had to try to get housing for people there that day. And the poor Red Cross guys, they don't know any better. They don't know what agencies to call. And I think Partners in Care and Calahoe West were slightly involved, but it was too much for them to handle. We had like 9 dogs. We had all these animals. We had like all kinds of things besides just something that people could handle in that way. So I'm just mentioning that to you, Director, because back to the shelters, which we're trying to fund, there needs to be some type of thought of like what this interim thing is. And I know you guys are in touch with the Red Cross, but I myself stayed there until 8 o'clock at night until every last person found a place to go because they couldn't figure it out. There was mass chaos. People were pissed. And that's the only reason I went there at 4 o'clock, because they're like, Andrew, this is going bad. Like, people are attacking the volunteers. Now people are accusing, like, all you have to do is just notify some of us of what's going on, and we can jump in and help. You know, we can say, hey, we'll bring 5 or 10 social workers so we can all work at this. These 2 guys are going home. One person working at that many people in the shelter was too hard. So thank you for hearing me out. Thank you, Chair, for this extra time.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tupula. Councilmember Cordero, followed by Floor Leader Kia-Aina.
Thank you, Chair Okimoto. And first off, thank you for including my amendment here. I know it sounds like a place of contention, but this amendment that I put in was even before both Kona low storm impacts. And it really came from our discussion that we had during the departmental budget briefings. And when I put this in the budget, and maybe if I make further amendments, I'll scatter it amongst different departments. But when I put it in, I didn't expect the Department of Emergency Management to shoulder all of that. Plus, you could be a client agent to Director Millis's Department in Design and Construction, or with our climate change and sustainability and resiliency. I'm not asking Department of Emergency Management to sustain or shoulder this $3 million. And the best time to have planned for all of these shelters was yesterday, and the best time is right now. And so I know that you may have been told to say, we don't want this, but I think with what we are seeing with things right now, we need to start planning for our future. Thank you, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Floor Leader Kia-Aina.
Thank you. Before I talk about this specific amendment, which I think is a good idea, I did want to comment on Councilmember Tupola's experience with regard to the shelters. In my case, I'm actually very grateful for what they did at Kaneohe District Park, because we had 27 people there who had no place to go. But I have to tell you, who we had on the ground was Department of Parks and Recreation and the Department of Community Services. So perhaps as you guys do a debrief, you will look at who was on the ground, because someone should have called you guys and said, you know what, I don't think it's gonna work. If that had happened to me, oh my God, what I would have done is I would have taken them, and we would have just camped out at the district park until you guys let everybody back in. I wouldn't have left. So let's go back to this amendment. Actually, it's a good idea, and I understand where you're coming from, but if you look at the verbiage here, it's quite flexible. I'm gonna only look at the verbiage that is very helpful. One is inspect. Inspect could be current buildings. Another one is including, it says including capacity assessments. Again, that could be current inventory. And then, of course, retrofitting of existing facilities. So I do know that I worked with your deputy director, and we helped to secure some state funding for shoring up Kalaheo High School. I forget what the building is. But having said that, you guys have a strategy that I think you guys need to share with us. You need to make an assessment of the relevant buildings, whether it be the Department of Education facilities, whether it be city buildings and every separate. I'm not talking about new construction. Okay, I'm talking about current. That is worthwhile, because otherwise we would just be telling people, you know what, we don't have any shelters right now that could withstand a Category 5 hurricane, but you know what, why don't you get out of the flood zone and go drive up to one of the churches, the parking lot there, until you're safe, right? That's what's happening. So I guess I'm just trying to, I know where you're coming from, but I think that this is a good initiative, fully support it. I believe it can be done. With regard to capacity, perhaps as we move forward and this moves forward, we add a staffer specifically to help you with this, similar to what we're going to do with grants and aid. I'm going to have to make an amendment to add an additional staffer. This is worth the investment.
Thank you, Floor Leader Kia Aina. Chair Waters.
Thank you. Going back to, you have 15 funded positions. How many, or what did you ask the administration to approve this year?
25 new positions.
25. And what's in Bill 22? How much did they approve?
So we have 8 new positions that are in the current proposal.
8. But you asked for 25.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It'd be helpful for if you could provide to the committee that list of 25 positions. In light of what happened the last 2 weeks, I think we should seriously consider that.
I can make that available, sir.
Okay, great. The other part about emergency management, you know, one of the things that I heard from the community that there weren't any high water vehicles, right? People were on their roofs in the rain, and, you know, the fire department couldn't get to them because their vehicle was too low. People had to come out with tractors, right? And lift up the, I guess I don't know what you call it, on a bulldozer, the big thing to get people off the roof, because we didn't have any high water vehicles. Can we include in the budget high water vehicles? It doesn't have to be under your department, but under facility maintenance or E&V for these types of rescues?
I just want to be clear that with regards to high water vehicles, while we may not have, the city and county of Honolulu doesn't have high water vehicles, as soon as we activated the Emergency Operations Center last Thursday night, the first night of the Kona Low 2 storm, the first request we put in was for high water vehicles out of the National Guard. And those take some time to get to us to activate National Guardsmen and get them in place, but that was the first thing that we have. So we have access to them, it just takes some time. As far as high water vehicles, that would be more of a question for HFD, who does rescue, and if they needed the high water vehicles, that would probably be a better question for the chief and how that fits into their rescue strategies.
As you mentioned, the National Guard, that takes time. I think you need the governor to ask for them. And just looking at what happened in Wailua, where, you know, people are on their roof, 70-year-old ladies on the roof of their house waiting to be rescued. And we don't have, you can't wait for the National Guard, right? We needed it immediately. And DFM apparently has a yard in Wailua. Would have been nice, boom, you activate that, get those high water vehicles. What about pumps to remove water? Does the city have enough emergent pumps in these emergency situations to remove water? Because my understanding was Waianae needed them, Manoa needed them, Laie needed them, and Wailua needed them. How many pumps, big, huge pumps, how many of those do we have?
I don't have an inventory on the different pumps. That was who we would have to work with DFM and other organizations that have the bigger equipment like that to understand what our inventory number is. We definitely were using also fire trucks who obviously have pumps contained within the fire apparatus themselves. So we have access to those, but I don't have an inventory number with me.
You know, I was reading your department came up with a local hazard management program, long-term hazard management program, and there was one more, the Honolulu hazard management program. And it talked about, and it's on your website, it talked about all the different possible hazards, and one of them is flooding. And it identified that we have 57 streams, right? Your department identified that in these plans, 57 streams. Do you think it's important to have the necessary equipment to clean these streams and clean them on a regular basis in the event of these storms that seem to be happening more and more often?
I do think it's important. I also think it's important to recognize that when we talk about this storm and you know, the significance of this storm, and that it's you know, as it's been reported in the media, that we haven't seen a storm like this in 20 years. So it's not a normal storm, but it's something that we do have to get ready for, because as we're seeing these types of weather events become more normal, and so maybe we don't have the inventory of resources that we need for these things, and especially given our isolation out here in the Pacific, that we can't depend on mutual aid the way that they would in the continent, and where things might be in a city next door and that sort of thing, and they're not as accessible to us. So I do think that it's very important for us to take a look at not only you know, our flooding hazards in our streams, but all of our hazards and what resources we need for all of those particular hazards, and be able to be responsive to.
But according to the local hazard management program plan, which was adopted in 2025, and it's good for 5 years up until 2030, that plan that was put out by your department identifies that there was a flood in 2021 in Wailua, where the mayor, the governor, and the feds all declared it an emergency, and people were evacuated. This was 2021, so that's, you know, 5 years ago. So I beg to differ that these storms are happening more and more often. You know, in my district in Aina Haina, there was a huge flood in 2019, and you know, while people are saying they're 100-year storms, they're happening more and more often.
I'm agreeing with you. I think that these types of storms, what we may consider unique because they haven't happened as catastrophically as they have in the past or whatever. Yes, 2021 isn't that long ago, but we are seeing this pattern of heavier rains, heavier destructive storms, more disasters is what we're seeing. And so I think we do need to plus up. I'm 100% in agreement with you.
So to make it relevant to what we're talking about the capital improvement budget, the CIP budget. What should we add in here that would help to mitigate the loss of property and life? And what do we need to put in this budget, CIP budget, to not only prevent this, but to help the people who are currently in need?
I think working with the administration as to what is doable, and so that's why I was happy with the 8 personnel. As I've been learning this past year, being the director, things don't move quickly in terms of procurement and other operations due to the bureaucracy. And quite frankly, 8 people being added to the Department of Emergency Management and seeing our hiring process and that sort of thing, although I did ask for 25 positions, I think 8 is a very manageable step forward in what we can actually recruit and hire, given the workload already on my staff, which is doubling and tripling by the day, as we've, had these incidents, and that just adds additional work because we're going to go into recovery. We're going to go into long-term recovery, after action, all those things that we didn't have planned 2 weeks ago. So we have a lot of work to do. Adding 8 people is a great first step that is, I think, manageable given our processes. And I think that's a good path forward and to keep the budgets the way that they're proposed.
Okay, so you can't tell us what you need, what the city needs. I mean, we're going to have managing director here tomorrow. We can ask him, but you're the director of emergency management. You can't tell us what the city needs?
I think the city needs 80 personnel. I think we need in that 80 personnel over a long term, I need 9 field personnel, district coordinators in those particular areas. I want a watch desk that does all the alert and warning based out of the JTMC. I need more planners. I need more people to operate the Emergency Operations Center. My people have been working tirelessly for not only this Kona Low 1 and 2, but we had the Super Bowl Sunday storm. We had the storm 2 weeks after that. So it's been a very long 2 months and my team's tired, and we don't have the capacity to really do a long-term emergency operations center activation the way that we've actually seen, which is why we're bringing in South Carolina and the team from New York and the team from Kauai are all coming to support us. Because we have to plus up our numbers during this time, but we should have at least a minimum capability to keep that emergency operations center going for 2 weeks without any help, especially given the isolation.
All right, thank you. I'll see you Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Any follow-up questions from the members for the director? Okay. Before we move on, I would just like to kind of reiterate, I want to say that I do agree with what's been stated. I believe Chair Waters and might have been some of the other members that mentioned, not you specifically, but when we're talking about this, we understand that land acquisition is not an easy endeavor. That being said, Chair Waters has been asking from DHLM for a while now, what kinds of properties do we have within the city? I think, as you can gather from the feedback today, I don't think we're accepting that the administration doesn't want to do this. We need this in our community, so we're going to have to find a way to do so and not just be told that we're looking into Hau'ula, so the rest of you just are forgotten. I will say that I have been a little bit more hesitant along the lines of just giving you an endless amount of positions. I still have not been have confidence or convinced that in the department's direction with these positions. I didn't see, with the 8 positions, I didn't see any space, facilities, resources. I mean, with bodies, you then need space. And I've been able to visit. I visited the EOC back when I first got into this position. It's very tight. I didn't see in your operating budget anything related to computers or desks or anything related to these positions that you're asking for. And we did meet, and I did ask you, and you told me at that time what these positions were for. I still feel like I need some clarification or confidence in what these positions are. I still struggle in understanding exactly the position that you're in and how it relates to getting the needs of the communities as emergencies are happening and preparing for them. I think it's, like I've said before, a wish list that we have. 80 personnel, I think, is really, I think that's not reasonable at this time, or I don't see that in any future. I think to say that, to put your wish list out there is for you a nice thing, but we have to then figure out the logistics of everything. And so I'm struggling in that area. I know that I may differ from some of my colleagues just from the discussion here today, but I think, moving forward, I am inclined to leave this in here. I hope that we can work together. The council members and their districts have needs, and so if any theme has been stated today, I think it's the council members are going to stand up for our communities and to kind of work with you guys, but we don't want to just accept that that this is not what the administration wants and there's no money or no resources for it. We're going to figure out a way to get the needs for our districts. And with the Kona storm having come through, and we stated earlier that these amendments, Councilmember Cordero's, Councilmember Nishimoto's, the things that were asked were before this happened, but we have had these needs in our communities far before. So I think that's something that we need to further discuss. And moving forward, I would like to have better confidence in the direction of the department, what your exact responsibilities are. I think what Councilmember Tupola mentioned, having you, to me, you're the incident commander. You are the lead, and you're connecting to people who are on the ground. And so I don't know that you shouldn't have to be the one to go find a property or to do all the little things, but your department, and you should be the one to be connecting to the different departments. And I don't know if you need 80 personnel to do that, to be honest, but maybe I can be convinced otherwise. That being said, members, if we have any further discussion for the director, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Continuing on now with page 3 and 4 and pages 6 through 8 for public safety, highways and streets, and culture recreation for the Department of Design and Construction. And as Director Millis is coming to the microphone, I will start just quickly reading some of the descriptions. So on page 3 for Design and Construction, the Keanu Street hydrant, and the budget chair's recommendation is to accept $1.25 million for that project. And that is to plan, design, construct, inspect, and provide equipment for the Keanu Street a resilient fire hydrant. And then moving on to page 4, we have for the Bougainville Drive protective barriers for pedestrian safety. Chair's recommendation is to accept the amendment at $50,000. For Kaka'ako roadway and drainage improvements, Chair recommends to accept $5 million. The Manoa sidewalk improvements, also budget chair's recommendation to accept $5 million. Mo'ohe'au Avenue widening, again, chair's recommendation is to accept $100,000. And rehabilitation of streets, chair's recommendation is to accept $1 million, including repaving on Honolulu Road from Aiea Access Road to Ka'ahamanu Street. That's on page 4. Then moving on to pages 6 through 8. At the top of page 6 for DDC, Alawai Community Park Shower. And that is from the Executive Operating Proposed Amendments. Chair's recommendation is to accept at $478,000. The Alawai Promenade improvements, Chair's recommendation is to accept $1 million and establish a dog park in Kapahulu. Chair's recommendation is at $100,000. Page 7, Camilo Iki Community Park Improvements. To accept the amendment, title and project number to read Camilo Iki Community Park, Hawaii Kai, TMK 3-9-14:09, 18.5 acres, and it has 1971412, and the budgeted chair's recommendation is at $100,000. Coco Head District Park parking lot improvements, title and project to read Coco Head District Park, 1971364 at $325,000. And Makalapa Neighborhood Park Improvements, chair's recommendation is $300,000. Mauna Lahilahi Beach Park at $2.5 million. And, I skipped you. Oh, okay, thank you. I'll go back up to Kuhio Beach Comfort Station renovations, and that is at $5 million. Then on page 8, Oat Stadium Park improvements for $1 million. Park improvements in Council District 5, chair's recommendation is $500,000. The Patsy T. Mink Oahu Regional Park, Kmark Takai Veterans Memorial Aquatic Center at $1 million. Play carts at various parks, new. Chair's recommendation is $100,000, and the Waikiki Beach Sand Restoration is to accept it at $5 million. Thank you, Director Millis, for being here with us.
Thank you and good afternoon, Budget Chair Okimoto and council members. Haku Millis, Director for the Department of Design and Construction. We respectfully would request to defer these amendments. As many of you know, We work very closely with the administration on the CIP program priorities, as well as, adjusting the resources and funding in coordination with our client agencies. And so that is our position on these, with the exception of a couple that I just want to touch on real quick. The fire hydrant one is a BWS, and so they could speak to that probably better than I could. And then the Waikiki Beach replenishment project being proposed here, we understand in our conversations with with BFS that this is an operating cost and not CIP, so we would not be able to utilize funds for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Millis. Members, do we have questions for our DDC Director? Okay. Thank you so much, Director Millis.
Thank you.
Okay, members, moving back to page 5, under sanitation, the Department of Environmental Services. And I did see with us, we do have Director Roger Babcock. And as he's coming to the podium, the project is under waste collection and disposal for Oahu Sanitary Landfill. The chair's recommendation is to accept the amendment. Okay. Is to delete the project and accept the amendment at $30,002,000. Thank you for being with us, Director Babcock.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Okamoto, council members, Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services. We respectfully request that that the funding for this item, which is the purchase of the next landfill for Oahu, be reinstated into the budget. This is for, again, for purchase of land. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, members, do we have questions for Director Babcock? Council Vice Chair Tupola.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Director, for being here. Thanks for everything. Your department has been incredible. Your deputy has been coming through with every request I have. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm so thankful, so grateful. There's just so many people in need, so thank you. Director, I am in touch with H-Power, and I know that the $30 million is for the acquisition of land. We discussed that it could be some time for permits, for approvals, et cetera. So my thought here, and I didn't have it prepared for today, but the taking out of the $30 million is for us to try to find a better place to invest it in H-Power improvements, because that's needed like as soon as possible. And I'm not saying that there couldn't be some future thought about possible whatever needs to happen with the landfill, but I do think that the task force will help us to kind of know and kind of forecast a little bit better. But I am concerned, especially with the amount that we're handling now. And I know that you did put in $25 million of upgrades to H-Power, but with the amount that you guys are handling now because of the storm, even more, I feel like the imminency of us being able to invest in any other upgrades. So I'm just getting from Reworld what other things they think that we could possibly invest in that would help them to operate more efficiently, so that we could actually do what we need to do on a day-to-day basis, not just when there's storm, but on a day-to-day basis, for us to kind of invest in that and then kind of go from there until we have more information from the task force. So I just wanted to kind of just share that as a comment. I know that there's so many other pieces to consider, but that was my thought process in this.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Members, any further questions or discussion for Director Babcock? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for being here, Director Babcock.
Thank you.
Okay. Members, finally, on pages 9 through 11, we'll be going over the provisos. Wait, what? Okay, these are amendments to section 14 to update the PIM. So I'm just going to be quickly reading over it for discussion. Section 14, in the event any of the following projects is of a type listed in ROH, Section 4-8.3, and is a major public infrastructure project as described in ROH, Section 4-8.4, no land acquisition or construction funds shall be expended or encumbered unless a public infrastructure map amendment is adopted prior to July 1st, 2026. Inclusion of a project on this list does not imply that for the purposes of public infrastructure map conformance, the project is of the type listed in ROH Section 4-8.3 or is a major public infrastructure project as described in ROH Section 4-8.4. The administration shall provide the council with a detailed description of the specific expenditures made for these projects in the Capital Improvement Projects CIP Quarterly Status Report. I'll be reading through each function and project number and the project description. For public safety, project number 2000101 for the project General Government, Japan American Institute of Management Science Property Land Acquisition. And then under public safety, 2000101 flood control improvements at various locations. Island-wide Resilient Emergency Shelter Initiative. Project number 2005002, Drainage Outfall Improvements. Highways and Streets, project number 2000052, Drainage Improvements at various locations. And Kaka'ako Roadway and Drainage Improvements. For sanitation, the project number 2010046, Oahu Sanitary Landfill, and 2014063, Solid Waste to Energy, H-Power Expansion. On page 11, project number 2001062, Wastewater Treatment Plant, Pump Station, and Force Main Projects. For Human Services, project number 2026004, Affordable Housing, Mixed Use Development. And under Culture and Recreation, project 2009041, I apologize, for Culture and Recreation, the Kapahulu Dog Park, and then project number 2009041, Preservation and Conservation Lands. Members, any discussion on the provisos? Okay, seeing no further discussion, members, this concludes the discussion on Bill 23, 2025. Sorry, 2026. Again, Bill 23, 2026. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 23, 2026 be amended to a CD1 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any further discussion? Councilmember Kia Aina.
Chair, I just based on my previous discussion with regard to the lands owned by Kamehameha Schools in Hawaii Kai, I will be voting no against this measure because it goes against what I believe is that I can't be part of trying to acquire KS lands, and KS land, they should not be open to selling. But I do agree with Chair Waters' attempt to work with the community. I think Kamehameha Schools, I hope they come to the table, strengthen their community engagement in Hawaii Kai in general, because I believe that it's been wanting. And I think that they need to sit down with Chair Waters and the Hawaii Kai community and hopefully come to a resolution on this piece of property for the people of Hawaii Kai. So I just wanted to let you know that that is the only reason that I would be voting no against this budget.
Thank you for
Because I'm against the alienation of public lands unless it's like small slivers. But when it comes to our Ali'i Trust, I have to be on record.
Thank you, Councilmember Kia Aina. Okay, any further discussion at this time? Okay, noting the objection to Bill 23, 2026 from Floor Leader Kia Aina, and seeing no other reservations or just a second, members. Okay. Okay. We don't need to roll call? Just, okay. Okay, thank you, members, for your patience. Again, stating the objection from Councilmember Kia Aina. Any other further objections or reservations? Seeing none, the bill has been amended to a CD1. So Councilmember Kia Aina, I am accepting the objection to the amendment to CD1. Okay. The chair then recommends that Bill 23, 2026, CD1 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion or objections or reservations? Noting the objection from Councilmember Kia Aina, any further objections or reservations to the amended CD1? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you, members. Moving on to agenda item number 3, Bill 2026, approving the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation operating budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. Okay, thank you. Here with us we have from the Department Deputy Executive Director Michael O'Keefe. I'll let you share first, and then I'll open up for testimony and members' discussion.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Deputy Executive Director Mike O'Keefe. Thank you, Budget Chair, council members. Again, yeah, just wanted to thank the council for its consideration of our FY 27 requests, and I'm available for questions if there are any.
Thank you, members. Any questions for Deputy Director? Nope. Okay, thank you so much, Director O'Keefe. Seeing no further discussion, members, we will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no further testimony, members, we are back in discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 26, 2026 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 4, Bill 27, 2026, approving the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation capital budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. I'll actually take testimony first, so we'll proceed first with oral testimony in person in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. And with us again today, we have Deputy Executive Director Michael O'Keefe from HART.
Hi again, Deputy Executive Director Mike O'Keefe. Thanks again, Council, for your consideration of our 27 request. Here for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Deputy Executive Director O'Keefe? Seeing none, thank you so much. Seeing no further discussion or testimony, the chair recommends that Bill 27, 2026 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any further discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Bill 24, 2026, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds and bond anticipation notes of the City and County of Honolulu in a maximum principal amount equal to the aggregate of the amounts appropriated in the capital budget ordinance of said City and County for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2027, and specified in said ordinance to be financed from the proceeds of the sale of such bonds and to be expended from the General Improvement Bond Fund, the Highway Improvement Bond Fund, Solid Waste Improvement Bond Fund, the Housing Development Special Fund, or Taxable General Improvement Bond Fund. We'll now proceed first with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person oral testimony in the council chamber?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Joining us here in the chamber today, we have from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andrew Kawano. Good morning, or good afternoon, Dr. Kawano.
Good afternoon, Budget Chair Okimoto, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. I don't have any comments on the bill. that's currently being discussed. Yeah, I don't have any comments on Bill 24, 2026.
Okay. Members, if we have any questions or discussion for the director on Bill 24, 2026. Okay. Thank you, Director. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 24, 2026 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 6, Bill 28, 2026, approving the legislative budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. We'll now proceed with in-person or oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Oh, sorry, let me take one step back. I will read just the one item on this proposed amendment for the CD1. For the council allotment, the proposed amendment is add funding for current expenses, add proviso, at least $10,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated per council district for the purpose of district mailers, and the total amount of $90,000. And the budget chair's recommendation is to accept this proposed amendment in the amount of $90,000. Okay. I didn't, Director Kawana, did you want to comment on this or? Nope, okay. Members, we are in discussion relating to the legislative budget proposed amendment. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note that I have an amendment, and I just wanted to ensure that it goes for mailers, especially it would just be to each council district, and that it would actually just cover for one mailer's postage, honestly. But we know that we can prepare the mailers, do the printing, and when we get to the end of it, postage is just as much it is to print and design the actual mailer. So I just wanted to offer some wiggle room to allow for postage and or even printing in paper. Mahalo.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Members, any further discussion? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 28, 2026 be amended to a CD1 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any further discussion, any objections, any reservations? Seeing none, the bill has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Bill 28, 2026 CD1 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any further discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 7, Resolution 26-62, determining the respective rates at which real property in the various general classes in the city and county of Honolulu shall be taxed per $1,000 of assessed value for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. Members, we have distributed a hand-carried proposed CD1 submitted by Council Chair Waters. I will defer to Chair Waters at this time to explain his amendments.
Thank you so much. You know, there's been a lot of discussion on how we can help renters, and with the median price of a home at now almost $1.2 million, I thought we could give some relief to those renting by lowering the residential aid tier 1 down to $3.50 per 1,000, similar to residential. I just put it up for discussion, members. I know that the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services mentioned that they would be open to discussing revamping the whole system, whereas folks who are renting long-term would be charged the same as a residential rate. So I guess my main question was, if we were to do this and adopt CD1, how much revenue loss would there be? Would the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services be available to answer that question?
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. The budget team calculated the impact of reducing the Tier 1 tax rate from $4 to $3.50 per thousand. The impact is $14,961,000. It's quite significant.
Thank you so much. In light of that figure, I'm not asking you to adopt my CD, but just open to discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Kawano, for the answering of the question. Floor Leader Kia Aina.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Waters, actually, for that proposal. And thank you, Director Kawano, for sharing the impact. You know, so I get the idea of trying to provide relief and making it the same as residential. The recently enacted ordinance to provide for long-term rentals. If someone were to rent it at 100 AMI, they would get the $3.50 rate. So that would just incentivize them because it's their second home. It's not their first home. So, but I did want to say, Director Kawano, with regard to, so you know that the other ordinance that passed or resolution to create 3 tiers, I'm assuming even if you talked earlier about occupant versus non-owner occupant scenario and a permitted interaction group, you are still bound by trying to develop a 3-tier system. So I just wanted to know what the time frame was, and I just wouldn't mind being kept abreast because you're going to have to modify, and then perhaps maybe you can take into account Chair Waters' $3.50 proposal for the first tier, if in fact the Tier 2 and Tier 3 might be make up for it. Do you have any mana on that?
Yes, I think if we make or adjust the Tier 1 rate to $3.50, same as residential, and you know, the impact is almost $15 million. Yeah. I'm not sure if the savings would be passed through to renters.
Got it.
In this case, in this proposal for discussion purposes, and not sure if it's very likely that the landowners with investment property would retain the savings.
Okay.
And not really help to address our housing issues. So that's the concern.
Thank you. I would like to focus just on residential A. Do you have an idea then for the 3 tiers? Do you think you're going to keep it at $4 for Tier 1, $11.40 for Tier 2, and then come up with a third tier, or do you think all of them may be modified?
I think all of them could be modified.
Okay.
We could go down a little for the first tier, but I myself, I wouldn't recommend going down to $3.50.
Okay.
Same as residential.
And then with regard to the Tier 3, which would be for homes that are 3.5 million and above, it'll probably be.
It's going to be higher.
Yeah. Okay, that's all. I just like to make sure that you guys are on track, regardless of whether we have a permitted interaction group or not.
Yeah, the thing is, with everything going on, while we're concerned about the cost of housing for renters, we have a lot of extra costs going forward as well. With the recovery and the new collective bargaining agreements that we have to fund. So there's just a lot out there.
Sure, but you have the authority on the transientification units as well for Tier 3, which is 2 million and above. So hopefully you can come up with the right balance so that you can increase your revenue.
We'd like to be revenue neutral if possible, or close to that. Yeah.
Thank you, Florida Kia Aina. Members, any further questions? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Okimoto. I don't have any other questions, but actually I do have a question. Like, where in the range of 350 to what it is now, what the rate is now? Because with the median income being about 1.3, almost $1.3 million, I would support lowering it, but where would you think we could land for the first tier?
I would say that if it goes down, it'll be closer to the 4, not closer to the 350. Okay. So we're talking maybe 390, 395. And then obviously the tier 2 and tier 3, we're going to push up to keep it revenue neutral so we can pay for our services.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. But Chair, I don't oppose the amendment to the rate, but based off of your recommendation for the amendment, I'll go off of that for public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Members, any further discussion? Questions? Okay. Thank you, Director Kawano. We'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no further testimony, members, we are in discussion. Okay. Members, I just want to say that I want to take note. I do appreciate Chair Waters' amendment and the discussion about, this has been something that I know the body has been working on for a while. I do want to take note into account Director Kawano's input, though, and how it would, what the impact they would have on the city's resources. So at this time, the chair recommends that Resolution 26-62 be reported out for scheduling of a public hearing and thereafter be referred back to committee. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Okay. Reservations. Okay, noting the reservations of Councilmember Kia Aina. Any further objections or reservations? Okay, seeing none, thank you. The measure will go on to second reading to public hearing. Okay. Members, thank you everyone for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.